Hi, my name is Terry, and this is Debbie.
Hello.
And we are here today to talk about mentoring. Hi, Debbie.
Hi, Terry. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. I'm so glad you were able to make time
20 years to date.
come here. Yes.
Amazing.
I know. We have been professional colleagues and friends for 20 years.
Wow. A long time.
Yes. And Debbie is here today to talk to us about mentoring and the mentoring relationship. Now, before we get started, I want to give everybody an overview of what we're going to be talking about other than just mentoring. I'm going to share Debbie's background, bio, and introduction. And then we're going to do a lightning round of questions that she's not seen yet that'll allow us to know her better. We're going to have some key questions around the mentoring relationship, and hopefully an organic conversation will come from that. Does that sound good to you, Debbie?
That sounds great.
Okay, we're both using some notes, so please forgive us if we look down. And I'm going to read Debbie's introduction and bio, so forgive me for looking down. Debbie Gross knows firsthand that administrative excellence is about more than juggling calendars and managing tasks. An intuitive leader, she offers a fresh approach to teaching administrative professionals how to upgrade their soft skills and build confidence. Whether on stage or in the classroom, she has an innate ability to transform staff leaders and drawing out their inner office rock star. As the former Chief Executive Assistant to John Chambers, CEO and Chairman of Cisco Systems, Debbie supported the company's growth from a multi-million-dollar business to a multi-billion-dollar business. Known as John's right hand, she increased his productivity by about 40%, if not more.
And I can never figure out where he got that percentage, but I'll take any of it.
Same. Debbie has designed many initiatives and programs that have helped the global administrative community here at Cisco over her tenure. And because of those programs, the Cisco administrative community has grown and thrived and continued to do so today. Now Debbie is using her 30 years of experience to help the next generation of administrative professionals transition from overwhelmed task managers to strategic business partners. And I think that's a key part of this conversation today.
Totally.
Debbie is a globally recognized speaker and instructor who's given motivational talks and conducted interactive workshops at companies such as Comcast, FedEx, Intel, and Procter & Gamble, all names you should know. And just to name a few, there are more that are not on this list. Debbie's distinctive teaching style blends creativity, fun, and new thought processes to help administrative professionals gain a greater satisfaction, recognition, and promotions. And I can attest to that because I have been her student as well. For her passion and advocacy, the Administrative Awards of Silicon Valley presented her with the Colleen Barrett Award, their highest award given for administrative excellence. Congratulations, Debbie.
It was a moment in time.
Yeah.
A wonderful moment.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
Debbie genuinely cares about each one of her clients, and her one-of-a-kind approach to training transforms a good administrative professional or executive assistant into someone who is an amazing and true business partner. I'm grateful to call her one of my mentors and blessed to call her a friend for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Debbie, thank you again for making time to chat with me today. Your bio and introduction are really impressive. When I read it the first time, I was a little overwhelmed. And we can all see how much you bring to the conversation for championing the administrative profession. Now, before we get into the interview, you ready for the lightning round?
Okay, here we go.
Okay, I'm going to hide the questions so you don't get a preview.
Okay.
Okay. All right, here we go. All right. Here we go. What's your favorite color?
Red.
I knew that.
Red is my favorite color.
Okay. What is your favorite drink? And it can be alcoholic, non-alcoholic. There's no rules.
I would say a very good Chardonnay.
Very good Chardonnay.
Very good Chardonnay.
What is a good Chardonnay to you?
It's not necessarily buttery or oaky, but it has a lot of flavor, complexity,
Okay.
and it's not your run-of-the-mill Chardonnays.
Okay.
So I like the fact that it's complex.
Okay. Sounds good. What's your favorite workday snack?
Popcorn.
Popcorn, not buttery?
No, just plain popcorn. I was raised with working for John, learning to love popcorn.
I love that.
It's actually healthy if you don't put the salt and the butter on it.
Right, exactly. And it has a good crunch.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just need that crunch.
Mm-hmm.
What is your biggest calendar pet peeve?
Oh, what is that? Scheduling a meeting and sending out the invite and people don't show up. They say they're coming, but they don't
Yes.
show up. And I've had situations where I'd have catering and I look at the list and they all said they would be there and they wouldn't be there. That is my huge calendar pet peeve.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when I'm putting on a nice fun event
Mm-hmm.
where you're expecting people to come and
Right.
collaborate
Right.
and they don't show. It's too bad we can't just call them up and say, so, hey, why didn't you show up?
Right. Now that's for an in-person meeting.
Yeah.
Do you have a pet peeve for a virtual?
Probably similar, meaning that it changes and
Mhm.
it doesn't stay the same. And when it changes, it creates a domino effect across the board for everything else that you have in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, if you have a calendar, a meeting scheduled, and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and they're not coming, I don't get an email, I don't get a text saying I'm running late, that is a total no-no.
Right.
Total no-no.
Right. I hear that.
Yeah.
I just thought I should ask, since now that we're in a hybrid environment, we have in-person and virtual,
Mhm,
so
mhm.
the answer could very well be different. But
Yeah.
but they're connected. You put in the effort to setting up the meeting,
Mhm.
and then it doesn't
Yeah.
happen, or people don't show
Being
up.
respectful of other people's time, I think, is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Pet peeve.
Absolutely. Next question, one word. What's the best thing about being an executive assistant?
Oh, the best thing about being an administrative assistant is, I'm going to say, it just popped in my head, influence.
Influence in what way?
You have an incredible, and I always tell my people that I'm career coaching, you have a powerful ability to influence outcomes based on how you operate. To me, influence is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something I think we forget that we have. But just planting seeds, or, with John Periaki would just say, hey, what if we did this? Or you can do that. And it changes the outcome.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yeah.
And that goes along, for me, I'm just going to go ahead and answer one of these questions
Go.
myself.
You go.
Is the executive visibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? And being visible to the business in a way that is
Mhm.
unique and
Mhm.
different, and it goes to that influence.
Mhm.
I may just ask questions like, so why are we doing this
Mhm.
part?
Mhm.
And it gets them thinking maybe about something they hadn't thought about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that part of the
Mhm.
job.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your favorite movie?
Okay, I just saw one that I haven't seen in years called For the Love of the Game.
I know that movie.
With Kevin Costner. I've seen it multiple times, but I just saw it again the other night, and it just brought so much, emotion, and
Mhm.
other than Kevin Costner's super, super cool.
I was going to say two words, Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, but the whole idea of his passion and love for not just the game, but with one individual. That, it was so, again, I just couldn't
Mhm.
turn it down.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great movies out there, don't get me wrong, but that one just seems to be the one I just watched that was, I keep telling everybody, you need to see it. You know how many people haven't seen it?
A lot.
They don't even know it exists.
When you mention Kevin Costner in baseball,
Mhm.
you think Bull Durham or
yeah.
Field of Dreams. But,
No.
but you forget there's that movie, and that movie's just as good.
It is so good.
Just as good.
So good.
What's your favorite book?
Well, I've got so many books. I just have so many books. I guess a couple of my favorite books. One that just, I think, kind of changed how I looked at life in terms of gratitude, and it was called The Magic by Rhonda Byrne. It talks about gratitude and how we look at gratitude each and every day. And when you are grateful, you somehow build gratitude in your life. And that's one of many books. There's another book that I utilized and have utilized called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, and it's all about confidence
Mhm.
and how not to be afraid. And that book has completely sort of changed, helps me get through the rough moments in my
Mhm.
career, especially when I become an here. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I just recently finished a book by Mel Robbins called Let Them, which, again, changed my life. I have so many books, but ones that really make an impression on me and help me live my life differently. Don't even talk about fiction. There's too many.
Right. Guess who has the magic on their nightstand?
You? Oh, isn't it
I'm halfway
awesome?
through it. It's great.
And I've been reading it again.
Yeah.
Just pick it up and look at it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see it being one of those books where you just open it to a part, and that is what the universe is telling you need to read today. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Okay, 2 more questions.
Oh.
What's your favorite kind of music?
Oh man, that's another challenging one. I would say soul, rock and roll and soul.
Nice.
But I have a lot of varied tastes, and I try to absolutely understand rap. Trying to figure that one out. And I will eventually. I think it's always good. So yeah, something that's really soulful, jazzy, rock and rolly, the old rock and roll.
Yeah, nice. And last question. What is your favorite way to create a work-life balance, or your favorite way to protect your mental health and prevent burnout?
Schedule it. I mean, that's kind of weird that you say that. But when I talk about scheduling, I have in my life 2 zones, actually 3, but one is my purpose zone, one is my personal zone. Personal zone is doing anything that is personal to me. It could be laundry, or it could be taking a walk, or it could be a vacation. My purpose zone is more what I want to work on, what I want to focus on, especially if I'm career coaching or building a new workshop or any of those things. So I kind of separate the 2. And make time for each of them, but I don't ever try to just do all purpose or all personal. I think you have to kind of look at the time you have and figure out, where do I want to spend it today? Now there's days that I'll go, I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to do anything. I just want to sit here and read my book. And that's okay. I can do that now in my life. But that's, to me, how I kind of separate the 2, and that's what I had to learn, especially after retirement, that I can't spend all my time in front of my computer because there's so much more of the world.
What did you used to do when you were in front of the computer all day long in the office?
Well, actually, again, I learned something very time management, and scheduling became very key to me. So, and I won't even go into the whole strategies behind it. But I used my calendar as if it was my assistant.
Okay.
So my assistant, I would have 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, email, right? And then I would say, write that letter. And those would be peppered into my overall calendar, like I would schedule John. My calendar, when I would come in, would kind of tell me what to do. And I set reminders. And she was about as irritating as I was with John. Did you do this? It's time to do this. And it's like, oh, I know. And I would yell at my calendar, I know, I'm getting it done.
Nice.
But that's how I think I dealt with, it's about focus. You have to build in focus. By the way, in our career, we are so distracted with texts and notifications and people and all those things. So we have to build in that. You have to build in that focus time. You wouldn't put your executive into an office and have people coming and going. You'd block the door so that he could focus, or they could focus on whatever they're working on. That's kind of the way I looked at it. And that became a success for me. I teach that.
Excellent. Thanks so much. So that was our lightning round.
Yay.
Now we're going to get into the interview questions.
Okay. I'm ready.
So let's talk about mentoring. In your own career, can you talk about some ways that mentoring helped you develop? I mean, you weren't just born this awesome CEA, Debbie Gross office rock star.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you've had wonderful mentors along the way, as well as mentoring others. Can you talk about the relationship as a whole and some ways that that's benefited you in your career?
So one of the things I wanted to share with the audience today is never think you have all the answers. And as a young career-minded woman growing into the job market, I thought I knew it all, right? And I realized that was one of the mistakes I made by not thinking other people could help me. And that's one thing I'd love to say. Please don't think that you have it all, because I, even to this day, don't have it all. I think my very first job when I was young, and we're not going to talk about how old I was, but my first mentor was someone I hated. She was my manager, and she came up to me and said, I need to talk to you. And she brought me into her office, and she told me, you can't come in dressed like that anymore. And I had jeans, you know, and I was pretty like lax and all that. And I'm like, how dare you tell me how I can dress? This isn't right. And I really disliked her. But when I think back on it, I actually went out and I went and got some up-level clothes, slacks, not jeans, you know, dress, blah, blah, blah. And when I look back on it, as much as I disliked her, she changed my whole perception of how I was coming across to people. She was a mentor that I didn't think was a mentor, but what actually was a mentor for me. And so over the course of my career, I think that we look at how people's, even feedback we get, whether it's critical or not, that feedback is a part of mentoring process. Oh, I probably should have done it differently, or this is what I should have done. And, you know, John was my number one mentor, because when I went to work for him, I thought I was a rock star EA already. And boy, did he take me down a few notches, big time. He said, no, that's not the way I want to do it. That's not how we do it. And so over my career with him, he was one of the best mentors I ever had, and showing me how to be not just an executive assistant, but like you said, a business partner. And I had a point in time in Cisco where I was asked by HR to start a presentation in front of these all new hires. We had so many new hires coming in as administrative professionals. And I remember today, the HR rep comes up to my desk and said, I want you to do this. And I just stared at her and I go, no, I am not going to do this. No, 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 no. And she wouldn't leave my desk. So I said, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to get in front of people. I don't want to get in front of people. And she said, oh, you would be the best because you know the culture. So they got me a mentor. They got me a coach. They got me someone who showed me how to be comfortable in getting in front of people. And here I took a step out of my comfort zone. His name was Jeff Patino. Awesome, awesome man. And so over the course of my life, I've had mentors in a variety of capacities that have built me and built who I am today. So, yes, I think it's very important that we realize we don't know it all. And someone else might know more than we do. And they might be able to help us move to that next level.
Right. And not everybody can frame that feedback in a way that we can receive it, which is something I was hearing you talk about, like the way that first manager came to you and said, you can't dress that way, you can't. If she had said to you, Debbie, I'd love to see you up your game. I think it would be amazing if you wore the XYZ, you had this great presence. You probably would have been like, can I take my lunch hour now? I need to go shopping.
You're absolutely right, but you're right. Not everybody knows how to give it. And she didn't certainly say, I want to be your mentor.
Right.
She just laid into it.
Right.
And that's been kind of what's happened throughout my whole life. And I'm assuming that there are other people out there that have that happening too. You know, feedback and constructive criticism is actually hugely valuable.
Right.
And as I always said, there's a golden nugget in the pile.
Right. So to be a mentor, always keep in mind that maybe the way you say something and the way you frame it.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Read the room. Right? Figure out your audience, see how they're going to respond. And as a mentee, know that your mentor may not be thinking about that. They may not be thinking, oh, they're going to take this hard, but I'm going to give them feedback on how they're dressing, or I'm going to give them feedback on whatever, maybe unsolicited. And here we are. It's important on both sides of that street to separate self from the feedback.
And I want to share one other story when we're talking about mentoring.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I retired from Cisco in 2017, that first year was tough, really, really tough. I didn't know what to do with myself. I really didn't. I went to the gym, that didn't work out. I took art classes, that didn't work out. I walked miles and miles and miles, but I finally realized I need help. So I actually hired a mentor, someone who could help me overcome this place that I was in my life. And she finally said to me one day, because she says, how are you feeling? I said, I still don't feel I don't feel like I've got it together. And she said, I know what's happening. You're grieving. You're grieving.
Wow,
You're grieving for the
insightful.
role that you had. And now that you've grieved, which is okay, we should. I mean, I was in front of everything and everybody. Now it's time for you to step over that. And so she helped me realize building a routine and dealing with a whole different way of work and life. So it was so wildly epiphany. I was.
That's great.
But it took someone like her, a coach, a mentor, to help me see that next step.
Right.
So
And honor where you were at.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So the next question we have is, when we're looking at mentors and mentees, you know, we obviously thought about growth mindset, right? Or other things similar, like, you know, where's your location? Who are you? You know, when we're matching people up, right?
Right.
But we also looked at some creative things, like, oh, I used to work in that organization, so I understand it.
Yeah.
I would, you know, you've reached out to be mentored. I would love to be your mentor because I know that organization, right? That's something outside the box
Right.
to have a better relationship. Is there something like that when you look at being someone's mentor, if you're going to be a good fit or not, or to be your mentor?
Yes, well, I'll tell you, I look for when someone reaches out to me and wants coaching and mentoring. First of all, I look to see, is this serious? Is this something you really want to do? But I also gravitate towards people who demonstrate the qualities that I feel I demonstrate, which is passion and the love of the game and the love of being an executive assistant and having a presence and skill sets and things that every time, like Joan Burge from Office Dynamics, when I met her, I wanted to be mentored by her because she represented skills that I didn't have. She had the passion for the role. I look at Ingrid Godinez, who is another one of my favorite coaches and mentors who taught me how to communicate more effectively. So it was what was inside of me that I wanted to grow is what I would look for in a mentee. You know, if someone came to me and said, well, can you mentor me in the latest Microsoft Outlook? No, that's not where I go. That's not something for me, but I want someone who also is willing to listen, especially if it's somebody who wants me to career coach them or life coach them, who is willing to listen, willing to give and take, and then potentially, when I give guidance, to try it. You know, I've given in my career coaching, so many people I've coached, and you tell them, try this. And the next time we get together, did you try that? No, I didn't. And so to me, that's a disheartening thing to be a mentor and they're not taking it. You know, I do like people who challenge me and say, well, I'm not sure that would work for me. Well, tell me what would work. So, you know, it's kind of a give and take.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had people apply for the program, they were matched, and they never reached out to their mentor.
Oh, isn't, yeah,
And
it's
so
crazy.
It's unfortunate, and things change, right? Everybody's got lots on their plate. Not going to, fall to anyone, but at least come back and go, hey, I can't do this right now. I don't have the time. I want to do it maybe on the next cycle.
But you have to have a desire.
But you have to
have a desire
and
to
make
be
it a
mentored.
priority.
Yeah, yeah. But the other thing, right, Terry, is the chemistry in the click.
100%.
Because I mean, the coach that helped me mentor through the phase of retirement, we didn't ultimately click.
Okay.
And so ultimately, I said bye-bye. You have to have someone that you kind of feel good with, you know, and have a chemistry with. Because if you don't have a chemistry, it won't work anyway. It's like getting married or having a boyfriend or girlfriend. It's no chemistry. It just doesn't work.
Right. Needs to be a good fit. Or being an executive assistant and your principal has to be a good fit.
It has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question is, can you share a specific example of an experience you had as a mentor that taught you something new or showed you had blinders on? I know you shared something early in your career. What about later in your career?
Well, here's the thing. Because I was the chief executive assistant, I had a lot of senior level executive assistants. And in my mind, I felt that they looked up to me, or at least we seemed to respect each other. And so I felt like I was mentoring many times over. In this one particular situation, though, one of these individuals called me on the carpet, sent me a scathing email, and I was totally taken aback and go, wow. So I approached that person, and I remember that we were sitting there. I wanted it to work. You know, I don't want anyone to be unhappy with me. But getting feedback isn't easy either.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular person, who, by the way, is a very dear friend of mine, and I won't say her name, but she's a very dear friend of mine, she basically said, Debbie, you are a bull in the china shop. Meaning, you just do it and you don't take anybody else's thoughts or feelings into consideration. Now, I had never thought of myself that way. And I went, wow. And that was a huge, huge eye-opener in terms of me, in terms of my leadership, in terms of how I was coming across to people, being engaged. I had to think, okay, step back. You don't have all the answers. They have thoughts too, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a big eye-opener that I'll never forget. It was a life-changing thing. A lot of these are life-changing, meaning how you do things becomes so different.
Right. There's a saying, and I always forget who this saying gets attributed to. We'll say Mark Twain, since he always gets the attributes for these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that applies to the mentoring relationship,
Mm-hmm.
where you get a piece of input from your mentee or your mentor, and you can integrate it everywhere in your life, not just your job.
You're absolutely right, and that's exactly how I did it.
And that's what I'm hearing when you say it's life-changing.
It is.
Yeah. Awesome. Can you give me a moment in your career when you felt like a total boss?
Oh, yes. So John traveled, and a lot of times he was in the other part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
One of my examples, many. There was a very important purchase order coming across his desk with a vendor that was critical mass, and it had to be signed that day. And I knew there was no way I was going to reach him. I mean, we're talking way out there.
Sure.
So I thought about it for a minute, and I said, this is a decision I have to make. We could lose a lot. Cisco could be in trouble, or would it benefit Cisco? So I signed that purchase order. It was $2 million. It was a $2 million purchase order. And by the way, my signature, I learned how to mimic John's signature, so you couldn't even tell it was John. And John said to me, Debbie, next time you sign something, which is, by the way, you did the right thing, put a little dot right after the end, so I know you signed it and it wasn't me. I said, I will do that. But I had to make certain decisions when he wasn't around. And so that's when I felt like I'm kind of running the show right now. Yay. Be careful, though. I mean, I would say there were some risks I took that weren't as good.
Sure.
Yeah, that's when I felt like I was kind of the head CEO for about an hour.
and right, totally. No, I wouldn't have done it. I would have had a paper trail, and I learned a thing where I would sign my principal's name in my writing, like not even try, and then I put my initials next to it. So I have their approval to sign this on their behalf.
Sometimes you just have to take that risk.
And this is when we signed things in person. This is not when you log in with your executive credentials or whatever, which is kind of a gray area right now. We're hoping to integrate a proxy system here where I work, and hopefully that'll fly.
Yeah.
So a myth about being an EA that you want to bust open for new and career admins, not seasoned ones like us.
You can be anything you want to be. And you have to come in with that mindset. I can be anything I want to be. And don't put barriers in front of you that says, I'm not allowed to do that, or they're not going to give me that promotion, or they're going to think that I'm not smart enough. We put all these negative barriers in our mindset. So when you're new and you're going into the role for the first time, go, I'm going to be everything I want to be, and no one's going to stop me. And I didn't have that mentality when I first started. So I would say that that's one thing I would say. You have to ask for what you want. You have to prove yourself. You have to go in and say, I'm going to be the best that I can possibly be. And because of what I do, continue to develop and train and network and get in the fray with all the other people doing the same job that you are, because you don't know where you're going to land, but you could potentially be somewhere way out there where you never thought you would be. Some people get into the role as an executive assistant and end up being directors, program managers. Yeah, I know a few that I coached.
Right?
Dory Prado's one of them.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't let things stop you, and you don't go in afraid.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Oh, well.
I wish I'd gotten that earlier.
I did
in
too.
my career.
I do too.
Okay, what is the best piece of advice you got from a mentor that completely changed your career?
Well, of a lot of things, but I think the power of being fully present. As we talked about the role, you know, you're so busy and you're distracted and you're typing and you got this and you got that going on. But I learned that I wasn't present. When someone would come up and talk with me, I would say, yeah, okay, what do you need? I wasn't really there.
Okay.
I was never really there. That meant being fully present, looking at somebody, listening to what they were saying, which is so hard to do, by the way. Listening is very hard for people to do. And I think Ingrid was the one that really shared this with me. There's such a power behind being present and looking at someone and truly listening to them. And so if you are an executive assistant and you're going crazy, remember, you've got to stop. When someone talks to you, to stop what you're doing and focus in on them. And how many people came by my desk every day? It was like a zoo. Is John in?
Sure.
How are you? You know, and I'm
Sure.
going, I stopped looking at my computer. I stopped typing and looked directly at them and said, okay, what's going on? That to me was a huge nugget that I still use to this day with my friends, with people that I career coach, when I'm in the classroom. There's amazing presence in all of us if we become fully present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one. Just a few more questions. Okay, now, how did you manage being a mentor while still evolving your own career?
Well, you know, when I was an executive assistant supporting John, I was overwhelmed. I had so much work to do, and it got crazier and crazier and crazier. And mentorship wasn't even part of that thought process. It was just surviving until I realized I needed help. And I basically asked John for help. And in doing so, I hired a lobby ambassador to come and support not me as assistant, but support us, John and myself, together. And that was, I think, my first taste of being a mentor, because I had to teach her what it takes to be an executive assistant. I remember the very first day, I'm giving her things to do, and she's just staring at me. And I said, are you going to write any of this down? And she goes, no, it's all up here. I said, no, it's not. So get that book out and start writing. Just things like that over the course of time. Having partners, executive assistants who were helping me with John was one of the ways I became and realized I started becoming a mentor. And then, of course, as I grew in my career, I stepped up, as I shared with you that story of teaching new hires. And as I did that, it became more visible. I had more administrators and executive assistants coming to ask me for support or asking me their advice. And so it just grew and grew and grew. And then I eventually taught Star Achievement there. And so that's, I think, I was still working and still just doing the best I could, but I was also suddenly in this world where everybody needed help in one way or another. So I think that was, to me, such an amazing thing to have happened to me. That, you know, I wasn't in a silo anymore. I was out, and they knew who I was.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah, one of the things that I know for myself, getting the opportunity to work with you, is that you were a mentor by example.
Oh, good.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that they're a mentor just by other people watching them.
You know, that's great that you say that. You know, people watch what you do. And if you work for the CEO, they really watch what you do.
Right. Like, I really like how Debbie does this. You know, this thing with the calendar, this thing with his prep book, you know, the binder for, and that sort of thing. I look to that as, ooh, I could take that. I could evolve it into what I need. Or the way she presents herself. You know, the way.
Thank you.
Not just the way she dressed, right?
No.
But your presence.
Yeah.
I gained from that just by watching. And so I want to put that out there too to the audience, that you can be a mentor and you don't even know it.
Exactly.
So
people watch you.
People watch.
And emulate you if they can.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you for sharing that
Yeah,
too.
you're welcome. You're welcome. Just a couple more questions.
Sure.
Looking back, what's something that you haven't shared already that you wish you had learned earlier in your career? Just anything.
Well, the one thing that I learned is don't take anything personally. Because I used to be a very emotional person. I used to wear my heart on my sleeve. You could tell if I was upset. And John could push buttons that would just totally fry me, and I would just be, you could just see it, or he wouldn't meet with me, and it's like I felt, why are you not meeting with me? And then I just started thinking, this role, you can't take anything personally. It's business. And so I wish I'd known that sooner, because I probably would have been a lot better off in the early parts of my career.
Right.
When John would say, now Debbie, you can't get stressed. This is not a time for you to be stressed. We can't be stressed. Because you're stressed, I'm stressed, we're all stressed. And when he would cancel meetings, wipe out an entire calendar day, I had to learn to say, you know what? It's his calendar. It's what he wants to do. And all I have to do is just make sure it runs smoothly. But it took me a long time to learn that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard one to learn.
It
It's not about
certainly
you
is.
as a person.
No.
It's about the work, and we can always learn to
Exactly.
do it a little better.
You bet.
Okay, last question. What is something that you used to think made someone a great EA, but over time and since then has actually changed for you?
Well, Terri, you kind of brought this one up when we were originally starting this video. Well, one of the things that I used to think make it a great EA was how they presented themselves, how they came into the office, how did they dress, did they just exude professionalism, in all shapes and forms. And if you didn't come in to the office in a suit for an interview, pretty much you were out. So that's one thing that over time has become passé. When Cisco went to complete casual, it was hard for me to get rid of all of my suits. Broke my heart, but hey, that was good. So that was one thing I think that I had to let go of, is that it's a new world. It's a new way of operating. And so that's one, I think, thing that I think about that used to be the criteria of it. I think the other thing that's still changing, COVID changed a lot for all of us, and we talked about this, Terri, is that the ability to talk with or collaborate or network with administrators in person, I call it water cooler chats, to be able to see what's going on in the office, to me that's, in connecting the dots, is one of those things that I think has been or was very important. Observing, being able to and reach out and join teams and do all those things. And now with this new environment, you can still do that. And we weren't in hybrid mode when I was at Cisco. It was, you got to work from home, and that was a luxury.
Sure.
Now I would have to learn a little bit more about how to be, as you said, intentional in terms of communication. Not just, we got to make a meeting happen, but to reach out and be intentional to talk to somebody and find out how they're doing. When we were in our world, I always looked at administrators and executive assistants. Are they getting up from their desk? Are they going and saying hello to somebody? Did they come to that last team meeting? Did they come to one of the events that we put on or I put on? And if they're not, then I would think, okay, that's not cool. But now, it's a whole new world. I'm still learning, by the way.
It's a whole new world indeed.
I'm still learning too. But thank you for bringing that one up. There is still always going to be the essence of an executive assistant or an administrative professional that's true to form, no matter whether they're hybrid or whether they're in the office. And that's the ability to communicate, to be present, and to continue to be skillful and work on those skills. My thing is, we are business partners. Yes. We're not just administrators. We're not just executive assistants. This is a very, very powerful, influential role, and it's up to us to prove that.
Yes.
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Debbie, I've really enjoyed this
Oh my
conversation.
God, I have too. I feel like it's just over coffee. We just had a good time. I've had a good time.
I know,
And,
me too. Me too.
I'm so happy that you asked me.
Oh, I'm happy you said yes.
Yeah.
And thank you for spending
Yes.
this time to watch. This
Mwah.
this has been, quite a journey, and maybe we will do this again
Yeah.
and do other interviews.
Thank
So,
you.
looking forward to the feedback.
Yes, me too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.